Waitress fed a stray dog. Her boss fired her. But minutes later, something unbelievable happened. Chapter 1: The Compassionate Waitress. Sophie had always been a kind-hearted young woman, guided by a strong belief in helping others. Ever since she was a child, she had been drawn to animals, especially those that had no one to care for them. It wasn't just about people for her. She believed every creature deserved kindness. Working as a waitress in a small yet popular restaurant in town, Sophie didn't earn much, but she made enough to support herself. The restaurant, owned by Mr. Grayson, was known for its delicious food and strict management. Mr. Grayson was a tough businessman who valued discipline and profit above all else. He had a reputation for being unyielding, and his employees knew better than to cross him. Despite the pressure at work, Sophie loved her job. She enjoyed serving customers and making their dining experience pleasant. But her soft heart often made her go out of her way to help, even in ways that weren't part of her job. Chapter 2: The Arrival of a Stray Dog. One chilly evening, as Sophie was clearing the tables after a busy dinner rush, she noticed a stray dog sitting near the restaurant's back entrance. The dog was thin, with patches of fur missing, and his ribs were visible. He looked at her with big, sorrowful eyes, his tail wagging weakly as if asking for help. Sophie felt an immediate connection to the poor creature. She couldn't ignore him. The restaurant always had some leftover food that would go to waste, so she decided to share some scraps with the dog. She discreetly took a small plate of food outside and placed it in front of him. The dog, starving, eagerly ate the food while wagging his tail in gratitude. From that day on, the dog, whom she named Lucky, became a regular visitor. Every evening, he would wait outside the restaurant, and Sophie would quietly sneak him some food. It became their little routine, and Sophie felt happy knowing she could make a small difference in his life. Chapter 3: The Boss's Anger and Termination. One fateful evening, as Sophie was feeding Lucky, she heard an angry voice behind her. "What do you think you're doing?" Mr. Grayson's sharp tone sent a chill down her spine. Sophie turned around, her face flushing with fear. She had never seen her boss this furious. "I was just giving him some food," she stammered, trying to explain. "This is a business, not a charity." Mr. Grayson snapped. "We don't waste food on strays. Do you have any idea how much money I lose because of things like this?" Sophie's heart sank. "Sir, it's just leftovers. It would have been thrown away anyway." "I don't care. If you want to feed strays, do it on your own time. Not with my resources," he said coldly. Sophie stood her ground. "Sir, it's just a little kindness. He's starving." "Enough." Mr. Grayson cut her off. "If you care so much about this dog, then go ahead and feed him. But you won't do it while working here. You're fired." His words hit her like a punch. Fired? Just for feeding a stray dog? Sophie couldn't believe it. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She removed her apron and handed it over. "Fine," she said, her voice trembling. "I'd rather be kind than work for someone who has no heart." She turned around, picked up Lucky in her arms, and walked out of the restaurant, unsure of what her future held. Chapter 4: The Unexpected Twist. Sophie was still in shock as she stepped onto the sidewalk. She had just lost her job, her only source of income. What was she going to do now? Just as she was lost in thought, a sleek black luxury car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, revealing a well-dressed man in his mid-40s. He had kind eyes and an air of authority about him. "I saw what happened back there," the man said. "You have a kind heart." Sophie looked at him, confused. "Thank you, but who are you?" "My name is Richard Dalton," he introduced himself. "I own several restaurants in the city, and I just saw you risk your job to help a stray dog. That tells me everything I need to know about you." Sophie blinked. Was this really happening? Richard continued, "I once had a dog who meant the world to me. He passed away last year, and it broke my heart. Seeing you care for this dog reminded me of him." Kindness like yours is rare, and I could use someone like you on my team. Sophie gasped. Are you offering me a job? Richard smiled. Not just any job. I'm looking for someone to help manage my newest restaurant. It pays far more than what you are earning here. And you'll be working in a place that values compassion. Chapter 5: A Surprising Reward. Sophie could hardly believe it. In the span of a few minutes, she had gone from being fired to being offered a high-paying managerial position. It felt unreal. Yes, she said, barely containing her excitement. I'd love to work for you. Richard chuckled. Then consider yourself hired. Tears of gratitude filled Sophie's eyes. She looked down at Lucky, who wagged his tail happily. This little dog had unknowingly changed her life. Meanwhile, inside the restaurant, Mr. Grayson stood at the window, watching in disbelief. His waitress, whom he had fired for an act of kindness, had just been offered a golden opportunity. Regret washed over him. Maybe he had been too harsh. Maybe kindness did matter. Chapter 6: Conclusion. Kindness is always rewarded. A few weeks later, Sophie started her new job at Richard Dalton's restaurant. She was now in a position where she could make decisions, ensuring that food waste was minimized and that kindness was encouraged, not punished. Lucky became a part of her life, and with her new salary, she was able to adopt him officially. As for Mr. Grayson, he soon realized the mistake he had made. His restaurant suffered a drop in customers after the incident became known in the community. People preferred to support businesses that valued kindness over mere profits. Sophie's journey proved that kindness never goes unrewarded. In the end, it wasn't just about feeding a stray dog. It was about staying true to one's values, even in the face of adversity. And so, Sophie, once a struggling waitress, found herself in a place where she was truly valued, not just for her work, but for her heart.